My friends, come a little closer now. Not in body, but in feeling. If you have found your way here tonight, it is enough. You do not need to arrive with perfect calm. You do not need to arrive with certainty. You do not need to arrive with anything solved. You only need to arrive. There is nothing you must do in this moment. No effort is required of you. No fixing, no deciding, no trying. Let that be the first mercy you give yourself tonight. Let the day be finished. Let it fall away from you, as a coat falls from the shoulders when you enter your own home. If your mind has been busy, if it has run ahead of you, if it has carried questions like heavy luggage, you may set them down now. Not because they are unimportant, but because you cannot carry them into rest and call it rest. You cannot clutch the future tightly and say you are relaxed. So for this 1 hour, for this quiet passage into sleep, allow yourself to loosen the hand. I want to say something to you that you may not have heard in a long time, if ever. At the very beginning, nothing has gone wrong. You have not failed. You are not behind. You are not late. You are simply tired. And tiredness has a way of making life appear far more difficult than it truly is. When the mind is strained, the smallest matter becomes enormous. A simple delay feels like a disaster. A silence feels like rejection. A single thought feels like a prophecy. The tired mind exaggerates everything. It turns shadows into monsters and then wonders why it cannot find peace. So if you have been hard on yourself, if you have looked at your life and felt disappointed, if you have said inwardly, I should be further along by now, I ask you to soften. Not because you are excusing anything, but because harshness never heals. Harshness only tightens the knot. You are not broken. You are not unworthy. You are not lacking some secret quality that others possess. You are simply weary from carrying too much tension for too long. And when you have carried tension long enough, it begins to feel normal. You forget what ease feels like. You forget what it is to simply be. Now I have observed something for many years, in myself and in countless others. People worry not because worry helps, but because worry feels like doing something. It feels like vigilance. It feels like responsibility. It feels as though if they stop worrying, they are being careless, as though their anxiety is the rope that holds life together. But hear me gently. Worry has never held anything together. Worry has never healed the body. Worry has never softened a heart. Worry has never opened a door. Worry is not care. Worry is imagination misused. Do not be troubled by that phrase. I am not speaking harshly to you. I am simply naming what is true. When you worry, you are not preparing for success. You are rehearsing failure. You are arranging a scene in the mind that you do not desire, and then you sit within it, feeling it, living it, as though it were true. And the strange thing is this: worry feels so real while it is happening. It speaks with such authority. It says, be afraid, because this is likely. It says, brace yourself, because this is how it always goes. It says, keep thinking, keep circling, keep reviewing, and perhaps you will be safe. But safety never comes from circling. Safety comes from rest. Safety comes from the quiet certainty that is deeper than the mind's arguments. Safety comes when you stop treating every passing thought as though it were a command. So tonight, I will not ask you to wrestle your thoughts. I will not ask you to fight your mind. Fighting only gives the struggle more life. Instead, I invite you to do something far more powerful. I invite you to let go. If you can hear me now, even faintly, even through the haze of tiredness, let these words be a gentle hand upon your shoulder. You are safe to rest. You may not feel it immediately. That is all right. The body has its own pace. The mind has its own habits. But you are safe to begin. The day teaches you to push. The day teaches you to manage. The day teaches you to keep watch. The day is filled with noise and demands, and the appearance of urgency. But the night is different. The night does not argue. The night does not require proof. The night does not demand that you solve the entire world before you are allowed to lie down. The night covers the earth with quiet, and in that quiet, something in you remembers how to soften. If your eyes are open, they may close naturally. If they remain open, that is all right as well. If your breath is shallow, do not force it. Simply notice it. Let it be as it is for a moment, and it will begin to change on its own when the body feels permission. Notice the weight of your body. Notice how the bed holds you, or how the chair supports you. You do not have to hold yourself up right now. You do not have to be on guard. You do not have to keep watch. Let the surface of the body be heavy, as though it is being returned to the earth. If your shoulders are tight, do not try to command them to relax. Simply allow the idea that they can soften. That is enough. If your jaw is clenched, do not fight it. Let the jaw know it is not needed for protection at this moment. The night has no enemy. Now you may have come here with a particular concern. Money, perhaps. Health. A relationship. A decision. A burden you have carried quietly. It may not even be a single thing. It may be a general sense of pressure. A feeling that life is asking too much of you. Whatever it is, you do not need to describe it. You do not need to revisit every detail. You do not need to explain it to me. Simply acknowledge, quietly, that the mind has been busy. That is enough. And then, for just a moment, consider this. The mind has tried to solve your life by thinking. It has tried to manage the future by rehearsing fear. And yet, here you are, still tired, still carrying the weight, still longing for rest. Perhaps it is time to try something else. Not effort, not more analysis, not more planning, but permission. The river does not need your effort to flow. The seed does not need your supervision to grow. The tide does not need your anxiety to return to shore. There is an order at work that has been working long before you were born, and it will be working long after this day is forgotten. You do not instruct your heart to beat. You do not command your blood to move. You do not sit awake at night directing the lungs to breathe. And yet it all happens, faithfully, quietly, without your strain. So why do you assume that the same order cannot arrange the details of your life? The worried mind says, I must handle it. I must hold it in my attention, or it will be lost. But that is not wisdom. That is fear, wearing the disguise of responsibility. True responsibility is not panic. True responsibility is not the constant rehearsal of what might go wrong. True responsibility is the ability to enter rest, to let the mind be quiet, and to allow the deeper order to move. Tonight you will let the work be done in you, while you rest. Do not turn that into a task. Do not try to do that sentence. Simply let it be true. Let it be like a curtain drawn across a bright window. Let the light soften. Let the room become calm. You are not here to make anything happen. You are here to stop interfering. There is a difference. The one who tries to make life happen is always tense, always watching, always measuring, always asking, is it working? Did I do it right? Did I ruin it with one thought? But the one who stops interfering becomes quiet. And in that quiet, life rearranges itself. I want you to hear this carefully. Many people secretly believe that if they stop worrying, something terrible will occur, as though their worry is preventing disaster. But worry is not a shield. Worry is a rehearsal. And rehearsals become familiar. And what becomes familiar begins to feel like home. So the tired mind returns to worry again and again, not because it loves worry, but because it knows it. It has lived in it for so long that it does not know what else to do. Tonight we teach it something else. We teach it rest. We teach it softness. We teach it the feeling of being carried. You do not have to earn this feeling. You do not have to be perfect to deserve it. You do not have to prove anything. You simply allow it. And if your mind says, yes, but what about tomorrow? You can answer it gently, without argument. Tomorrow will come whether I worry or not, so I choose rest. If the mind says, yes, but what if I forget? You can answer, I do not need to remember everything. I need only to rest. If the mind says, yes, but what if I lose my chance? You can answer, what is mine cannot be lost by sleep. What is mine will meet me. Now do not try to force silence. Silence cannot be forced. It comes when the struggle is gone. Thoughts may pass through. Let them pass. You are not required to chase them. You are not required to finish them. You are not required to solve them. Let them drift like leaves on a slow stream. You remain. And beneath all thoughts, there is a deeper listener in you, a hearer that does not strain, a part of you that receives without argument. You may call it the deeper self. You may call it the subconscious. Names are not important at this moment. What matters is that it hears the feeling behind the words. It receives the atmosphere. So even if you fall asleep while I speak, you are still hearing me. You are hearing me in the only way that truly matters. The night is not asking you to stay alert. The night is asking you to surrender. And surrender, when it is gentle, is not defeat. It is wisdom. It is the quiet strength that says, I will stop wrestling shadows, for that is what most of your anxiety has been. Wrestling shadows, trying to change the reflection in the mirror without changing what stands before it, trying to push the river to flow, trying to pull the seed out of the ground to see if it is growing. Tonight, you will do none of that. Tonight, you will rest. And as you rest, the deeper order moves. As you rest, you stop feeding the mind's habit of rehearsal. As you rest, you give life permission to arrange itself, and this permission is not small. It is not passive. It is a creative act. It is the moment you stop using your imagination against yourself. It is the moment you stop inventing fear and begin to allow peace. Now let the room be quiet around you. Let the body be heavy. Let the breath be unhurried. If you feel the mind resisting, do not condemn it. The mind is like a tired child. It has been running all day. It does not know how to stop at once. So you do not punish it, you do not argue with it. You simply guide it, again and again, back to softness, back to rest. There is nothing you must do. No effort is required. No fixing, no deciding, no trying. Only receiving, only letting, only the gentle permission that says it is safe to rest now, and as you drift, you may notice something subtle. The body begins to believe you. The breath deepens. The shoulders soften. The forehead smooths. The heart slows. And the mind, for the first time in hours perhaps, stops gripping. That is the beginning. That is the doorway. Stay with me softly, if you are still awake. And if sleep is already coming, let it come. You will not miss what matters. What matters will sink into you. Tonight, you will let the work be done in you while you rest. Very well, my friends. If you are still awake, let these words come to you slowly. And if sleep is already drawing near, let it draw near. You need not hold yourself rigid to listen. You need not strain to remember. What is meant for you will sink beneath the surface and remain. There is an old habit in the human mind, learned early and praised often. The habit says, if it is not yet resolved, I must force it into resolution. It says, if life is not as I wish, then I must push harder, think harder, sink harder, work harder, control more. And the world applauds that habit. It calls it strength. It calls it responsibility. It calls it virtue. So many people have lived for years beneath that quiet command. They wake, they hurry, they strain, they rehearse, they plan, they brace themselves as though peace were something that must be earned by exhaustion. They feel guilty when they rest. They feel nervous when they are not managing something. They feel as though they are failing if they are not struggling. But there is a gentler truth, and it can be seen in the simplest things. You cannot force sleep. The more you attempt to command it, the further it seems to go. Sleep comes when you stop chasing it. It comes when the body is allowed to become heavy, when the mind releases its grip, when you surrender the need to supervise, and you cannot force a seed to grow. You may stand over the soil, you may stare at the ground, you may demand that it hurry, you may even dig it up again and again to see whether anything is happening, but you will not speed its growth. You will only disturb it. The seed grows in darkness. It grows in stillness. It grows according to an invisible order that requires no argument and no proof. And what is most important in your life is like sleep and like the seed. It does not respond to force. The things you want most: peace of mind, freedom from fear, harmony in the home, relief in the body, ease in your affairs. These do not bloom because you wrestle the outer world. They bloom when something within you changes. The outer world is loud. It demands attention. It asks you to believe that it is the cause. It asks you to think, this is happening, therefore I must feel this. It presents you with facts and figures and expressions on faces and situations in your day, and it says, be convinced, be frightened, be discouraged, be tense. You must respond. But I have discovered, and you may discover also, that the outer world is not the cause. It is the effect. It is a shadow. It is an echo. It is the mirror reflecting what has already been accepted within. Now do not let that sound heavy. Do not let it become a philosophy you must argue with. I am not offering you a debate. I am offering you relief. If the outer world were the cause, you would be trapped, because you cannot control the outer world in all its movements. You cannot control the opinions of people. You cannot control the changing seasons of circumstance. You cannot prevent every delay, every surprise, every turn of events. If the outer world were the cause, life would be a gamble, and peace would be rare. But the outer world is not the cause. The cause is within. Life responds to states, not to anxious plans, not to frantic effort, not to your constant calculating. Life responds to the state you occupy. A state is not simply a thought that passes. A state is a mood of being. It is the inner posture you return to. It is the feeling of this is true of me. It is the quiet assumption you wear beneath your words, beneath your actions, beneath your expressions. And here is what many do not notice. They are always occupying a state. They are always living from an assumption. Even when they believe, they are merely reacting, they are actually confessing, and the confession becomes the pattern. One man lives in the state of things never work out. He does not say it loudly. He may not even admit it to himself, but he feels it. It is the mood behind his days. It colors his expectation, and life mirrors that state back to him with surprising consistency. Another lives in the state of I am guided, I am provided for, I am safe. He may not always feel it strongly at first, but he returns to it. He makes it his dwelling, and life, as though by its own nature, begins to reflect that state. This is not reward and punishment. This is not a distant judge deciding who deserves ease and who deserves struggle. It is simply reflection. The mirror does not argue. It reflects. The echo does not debate. It repeats. If you shout a harsh word into a valley, the valley returns it. If you speak softly, it returns softness. The valley is not punishing you. The valley is faithful. It gives you back the tone you gave it. So it is with life. Life is faithful to the state you occupy. Now, if that is true, and it is true, then a great burden can fall from your shoulders tonight, because it means you do not need to force the world. You do not need to wrestle shadows. You do not need to chase effects. You need only do one thing. You need to consent to a new state. Do you hear the softness in that word? Consent. Not fight. Not chase. Not strain. Consent. And let this become your quiet phrase, a gentle undercurrent, not spoken with effort, but felt. I do not force. I consent. Again quietly, as though you are speaking to your own heart. I do not force. I consent. And once more, without urgency, without demand, I do not force. I consent. Now, when you say that, you are not denying action in the world. You may act tomorrow. You may make calls, write letters, attend to duties. But there is a great difference between action that is born of fear and action that is born of inner certainty. Fearful action is frantic. It is tense. It is filled with the feeling that something is wrong and must be fixed at once. It is the action of a mind that believes it is alone. But action born of inner certainty is calm. It is simple. It is natural. It is the action of one who feels supported by life. Tonight we are not concerned with action. Tonight we are concerned with the state from which all action flows. For the state is the cause, and the outer world is the echo. This is why so many people exhaust themselves and still feel stuck. They move furniture around in a room, but they never change the room they are living in. They change the arrangement of outer things, but they never change the inner place from which they see life. They are like a man who looks into a mirror, sees a tired face, and then becomes angry with the mirror. He complains. He strikes the glass. He begs it to change. But the mirror cannot change first. Only the face can change. And when the face changes, the mirror changes without effort. So the question is never, how do I force life to give me what I want? The question is, what state am I occupying? What am I believing about myself in secret? What am I accepting as true when no one is watching? What am I feeling as normal? And here is the comfort. You do not have to answer those questions with strain tonight. You do not have to analyze your entire life. You do not have to examine every memory. This is not a trial. This is a gentle turning. Tonight you are simply moving from one room to another within yourself. From the room of I must manage everything to the room of it is already being managed. From the room of I must force to the room of I consent. From the room of I am trying to the room of it is done. And because the room you occupy within is the cause, the mirror must eventually reflect the new room without. Now the mind may protest. It may say, but the facts are still the facts. Yes, the facts appear, but facts are not the final truth. Facts are the crystallized form of past states. What you see today in the outer world is very often the echo of what you have been, not the announcement of what you are becoming. The echo lingers. If you speak a word in a canyon, you do not hear the echo at the exact moment you speak. There is a delay. And if you do not understand the delay, you may think your voice was unheard. But it was heard. The delay is natural. So do not be disturbed if the world has not yet shifted. Do not stare at the mirror demanding instant proof. Do not listen for the echo with nervous ears. You will only tighten yourself again. Tonight is not for proof. Tonight is for planting. Tonight is for consenting. And the moment you consent to a new state, something quiet begins to happen. Not always visible, not always dramatic, but real. The inner posture changes. The breath changes. The body begins to soften. The mind begins to slow. And in that softening, the seed is placed into the soil. If you are still awake, notice how these words are meant to be received. They are not meant to be analyzed. They are meant to wash over you, like warm water, like a gentle current, because the deeper mind understands in feeling what the surface mind tries to turn into argument. So I will not speak to you as though you must become a scholar tonight. I speak to you as one who is about to sleep. And when you sleep, you do not calculate. When you sleep, you do not prove. When you sleep, you do not debate. You receive. So receive this life responds to states. The outer world obeys states, not anxious plans. The world you see is yesterday's state made visible, not punishment, not reward, reflection, echo, shadow. And if the outer is yesterday's state, then tonight is your chance to choose tomorrow's state, not by effort, not by forcing, but by consent. I do not force, I consent. Let that be the quiet truth that carries you forward. Now I want you to feel the change of role that this brings you. It is subtle, but it is everything. You are not a manager of problems. You are not a perpetual fixer. You are not the overseer of life's machinery. You are the occupier of a state. You are the one who chooses where to live within yourself. And when you live there, the world must mirror it. This is why your greatest power is not in what you do with your hands, but in what you accept in your heart, not in what you chase, but in what you consent to. So if you find yourself thinking tonight, but what about this specific matter? What about this particular problem? Do not rush to name it. Do not run into details. Details awaken the old state. Instead, stay with the feeling of being carried, the feeling of being safe, the feeling of it is handled, the feeling of it worked out. You do not need to know how yet. You do not need to see the bridge. You need only to stop forcing and begin consenting. And if sleep is coming now, let it come. Let it come with this quiet understanding in you. I do not force, I consent. And the world will echo what you have consented to. If your eyes have closed, let them remain closed. If they open again, do not be concerned. If sleep comes and goes like a wave, let it. You are not required to hold any particular condition. The deeper mind receives what it needs in its own way. And often the most profound receiving happens when the surface mind relaxes its demand to understand. Now there is a word that has carried many meanings in this world, and for some it has carried a heavy weight. The word is God. To some that word has meant comfort. To others it has meant fear. To others, disappointment. To others, the memory of being told they were unworthy, or that life's pain was a punishment, or that they must prove themselves to receive mercy. If any of those feelings rise in you as I speak, do not resist them. Do not argue with them. Simply let them pass, as you would let a breeze pass through an open window. There is no need to struggle with memory tonight. Tonight is for release. When I speak of God, I am not speaking of a distant being somewhere beyond the stars, watching you, judging you, keeping a record, deciding whether you have earned relief. I am not speaking of a power that withholds until you have suffered enough, or tried hard enough, or believed strongly enough. I am not speaking of a God who tests you. I am not speaking of a God who demands proofs. I am not speaking of a God who must be persuaded. And I say this with tenderness, because many have lived as though that were the truth, and it has made their prayer a burden and their hope a strain. No, my friends, God is not far away. God is not absent. God is not waiting to be convinced. God is nearer than your own breath. If you would understand what I mean, do not look outward. Do not search the sky. Do not search the corners of the world. Turn your attention inward for a moment and notice something that is so simple, so constant, that most overlook it. You are aware. You are aware that you are. Before you name yourself, before you remember your story, before you recall the day or anticipate tomorrow, there is a simple awareness that quietly says, I am. That is not a thought you manufacture. It is not a conclusion you reach. It is not a reward you earn. It simply is. And I tell you, that awareness of being is God, not in poetry, not as a figure of speech, but as the very root and substance of all experience. For the name of God is I am. And the greatest misunderstanding of humanity has been to imagine that God is outside of man, separate from man, distant from man, so that man must forever beg and plead and wait. That misunderstanding is the source of so much needless suffering. Because if God is outside you, you are forever a petitioner, forever pleading, forever waiting for permission to be whole. But if God is within you as your own wonderful human imagination, as your own awareness of being, then you are never separated from the source. You are never abandoned. You are never cut off. You are not calling to an absent power. You are moving the only power that exists within yourself. Now I know that may sound startling to some and gentle to others. But let it be gentle. Let it be a soft revelation, not a shock. You do not need to fight with old ideas tonight. You do not need to argue with anything you were taught. Arguments belong to the day. Tonight belongs to rest. Simply allow the possibility that God is closer than you have imagined, closer than your skin, closer than your thoughts, closer than any fear, so close that you have been living as God all along, without knowing it, because you have been living as awareness, imagining and feeling and assuming, and then watching life reflected. This is why I have said, and I say again now, that God is your own wonderful human imagination. Do not misunderstand me. I do not mean imagination as idle daydreaming. I do not mean fantasy that has no consequence. I mean the creative power within you that forms states, that gives reality to assumptions, that shapes the world you experience. Everything you call life is experienced through consciousness. And consciousness is not something that merely observes, it is the very substance from which your world is formed. Now, if God is your own awareness of being, then prayer must be understood anew. For most prayer, as men practice it, is not prayer at all. It is anxiety dressed in sacred words. It is pleading from the state of not having. It is begging from the feeling of being outside the door. And if you pray from the state of lack, you impress lack upon yourself. You may speak beautiful words, but your feeling confesses absence. And the deeper self, the subconscious, faithful, impartial, receives your feeling as truth. So the man says, "Why does my prayer fail?" It has not failed. It has not failed. It has succeeded at reproducing the state from which he prayed. This is not condemnation. It is liberation. Because if the cause of your experience is the state you occupy, then you no longer need to persuade God. You need only change the state. Prayer is not pleading. Prayer is acceptance. Prayer is the inner act of assuming that what you desire is already yours, already done, already established in the only place where anything truly begins, in consciousness. So when I say pray, I do not mean cry out in fear. I mean enter the state of the answered prayer. I mean feel the relief you would feel if the matter were settled. I mean accept the peace that would naturally be yours if the burden were lifted. I mean become inwardly the one who already has received. That is prayer. It is quiet. It does not strain. It does not bargain. It does not attempt to convince. It simply accepts. Now the mind, trained in the old way, may protest. It may say, "But if I accept it, am I not pretending? Am I not deceiving myself?" No, you are ceasing to deceive yourself with appearances. For appearances are the echo of yesterday's state. They are not the final truth. They are not the cause. And God does not work in time. God works in states. Time is only the sequence of events by which a state becomes visible, but the state itself is the cause. The state is immediate. The state is now, so do not make God into a clock. Do not say, "When will it happen?" as though God were a distant mechanism that must turn slowly before it releases a gift. Instead, ask only one question, and ask it gently. From where am I living? From where am I praying? From where am I imagining? From where am I feeling? Because God does not ask you to earn anything. God does not ask you to deserve. God does not sit in judgment, measuring your worthiness. That entire picture is a misunderstanding. You are not being evaluated. You are not on trial. You do not have to convince anyone. You do not have to perform. You do not have to be flawless. You do not have to be strong every moment. You do not have to hold perfect thoughts. You do not have to keep your mind pure by force. You only need to return again and again to the state you choose. And the simplest state, the most merciful state, the state that opens all doors, is the state of acceptance. Acceptance does not mean resignation. Acceptance means you have accepted the end. You have accepted the fulfilled desire as present within. And when you accept, the work is done. Not by your muscles, not by your anxious mind. The work is done by the deeper order within you, by the subconscious that receives your feeling and externalizes it. Now, if the word God still feels heavy to you, let it be lightened tonight. Think of God not as a distant person, but as the very I am that is listening now. Notice you are aware that you are. That awareness is not strained. It is not trying. It simply is. And you may rest in it. You may let that awareness be your sanctuary. You may let it hold you. For if God is your awareness of being, then God is present here, now, in the simple fact of your existence. And if God is present, there is no need for panic. If God is present, there is no need to beg. If God is present, there is no need to prove. You can lay your head down and know that you are not alone in your life. You are not separate from the power that shapes it. You are the very operant power, and you have been using it all along, sometimes in fear, sometimes in hope, sometimes in ignorance. But tonight you use it knowingly, gently, without strain. And so if there is something you have been asking for, do not ask as one outside the door. Do not plead as one unworthy. Do not cry as one abandoned. Simply accept, inwardly, the feeling you would have if it were already done. If you desire peace, accept peace now. If you desire safety, accept safety now. If you desire harmony, accept harmony now. If you desire relief, accept relief now. Not by shouting at yourself, not by forcing emotion, but by allowing the natural softness that comes when you stop resisting the idea of being helped. You have carried the old belief that you must earn everything, and perhaps you have carried it for so long you forgot it was only a belief. Tonight you may lay it down, not in rebellion, not in argument, simply in rest. Let this be your quiet confession as you drift. I do not need to earn rest. I do not need to deserve peace. I do not need to convince God. God is within me as my own awareness of being, and I am safe to let go. If you can feel even a small easing in the chest as you hear that, that is the sign you are receiving. If the breath becomes slightly slower, that is the sign you are receiving. If your thoughts become less urgent, that is the sign you are receiving. You do not need a dramatic experience. You need only this gentle shift, because the work is not done by drama. The work is done by acceptance. Now remain with me softly, for we are approaching the doorway that the night provides. The state before sleep, when the senses grow dim and acceptance becomes easy. And in that state, you will learn, without strain, how to let this meditation do the work. If you feel yourself drifting, that is not a problem. It is the very condition we desire. If your thoughts are becoming softer, if the edges of wakefulness are loosening, if the body is beginning to sink, then you are near the golden gate. There is a state I have spoken of many times, and I will speak of it again tonight, not as a lesson that demands your attention, but as a kindness that makes this easy. I call it the state akin to sleep. It is that drowsy interval between waking and slumber, when the body is relaxed, the senses are quiet, and the critical mind begins to tire. It is not full sleep, and it is not full wakefulness. It is a gentle borderland. And in that borderland, something wonderful happens. The outer senses lose their authority. The arguments grow weak. The tight grip of reason relaxes. And the deeper mind, the subconscious, opens like fertile soil, ready to receive. This is why the night is such a friend to you. In the day, you are surrounded by appearances. You see what seems to be so. You hear voices. You meet situations that try to convince you that the world is fixed and that you are at its mercy. The day is loud. The day insists. But at night, the world grows quiet. The body begins to let go. And the mind that has been debating, comparing, doubting, measuring, begins to grow tired of its own noise. It can no longer keep up the same resistance. So you find yourself, without effort, entering a softer state. And it is precisely there, where you are not straining, that the imaginal act has its greatest power. Now I want to free you from a common misunderstanding. Many hear of this practice, and they immediately make it difficult. They imagine that they must hold a vivid picture like a painter. They imagine they must see every detail brightly. They imagine they must concentrate with effort, as though they were lifting a heavy weight. But this is not so. This is not intense visualization. This is not forced affirmations. This is not hard concentration. If you try to force it, you will only wake yourself up. You will tense the very instrument that needs to soften. You will turn the doorway into a struggle. No, the state akin to sleep is gentle. It is like floating. It is like being carried. It is like a child growing drowsy in the arms of a loving parent. So do not approach it as though you must perform. Approach it as though you are simply allowing yourself to receive. Now hear the simplest truth. The subconscious does not require long stories. It does not require complicated scenes. It does not require you to imagine every step between now and your desire. It requires only one thing, an impression, a simple, short, vivid moment that implies your wish is already fulfilled. And the shorter it is, often the better. For a long story tempts the mind to become busy. But a short scene is like a single seed placed in the soil. It contains the whole tree within it. So let this be your golden rule tonight. Choose a scene of 5 seconds, 10 seconds, no more. One simple gesture, one little moment that would be true if your desire were already realized. Not the whole journey, not the how, not the struggle, the end. A moment after it is done, if your desire were already fulfilled, what would you do? What would you hear? What would you touch? What would you read? What would you feel? Choose one small act that answers that question. It could be the sound of a familiar voice saying, "I'm so glad it worked out." It could be the sight of a letter, and one line on that letter tells you everything is settled. It could be the feeling of shaking someone's hand as they congratulate you. It could be the touch of something that implies completion. But keep it simple, keep it short, keep it natural. Now, how do you enter this state? You do not enter it by force. You enter it the way you enter sleep, by surrender. So if you are lying down, let yourself feel the body becoming heavy. Notice the weight of your legs. Notice the weight of your arms. Notice the softness at the back of the neck. Let the muscles give up their effort. They have done enough for today. Let the breath become slower, not because you command it, but because you allow it. Sometimes it helps to imagine that each exhale is a letting go. Not letting go of your desire, letting go of strain, letting go of supervision, letting go of the need to figure everything out tonight. You may inhale gently as though you are receiving calm, and exhale as though you are releasing control. If your breath is uneven, it is all right. If your mind keeps talking, it is all right. We are not demanding perfection. We are allowing the state. Now, as you rest there, you may notice thoughts beginning to float. They may become strange and fragmentary. They may come in pictures. They may wander. This is a good sign. It means the mind is loosening its grip on the outer world. Do not chase thoughts. Do not try to pin them down. Let them drift like clouds. You remain, and beneath the drifting thoughts, you introduce your little scene, quietly, not with effort, not with strain. Simply as you would remember something pleasant, you bring it in softly, like placing a warm lamp in a dark room, and then you repeat it, again and again, but gently, not quickly, not like a machine, like a lullaby, like rocking yourself. And as you repeat, you begin to feel it. Now listen carefully. It is not the sharpness of the image that matters. It is the feeling of reality. The subconscious does not measure the brightness of your picture. It measures the tone of your acceptance. It receives what you feel to be true. So if you do not see clearly, do not be troubled. Many people are not naturally pictorial. Some feel more than they see. Some hear more than they see. Some sense rather than picture. It does not matter. If you can hear the words inwardly, hear them. If you can feel the touch, feel it. If you can sense the relief, sense it. The feeling is the language. The feeling is the seed. Now I want to normalize something for you, because it will remove fear. If you fall asleep, it is perfect. In fact, it is often the greatest success, for the last impression you carry as you cross into sleep sinks deeply into the subconscious. If the scene fades, that is normal. Bring it back gently, without irritation, as you would guide a child back to a simple game. If your mind wanders, let it wander. Return when you notice. The return is the practice. If you cannot hold the scene long, that is not failure. It is training. Tonight you are not proving your skill. You are establishing a new habit, and the subconscious responds to habit. It accepts what you return to. So even if you only touch the scene for a few seconds, and then drift away, and then return, that is enough. It is more than enough. A seed does not require hours in the soil. It requires contact. It requires being placed. And once placed, life does the growing. Now there is one more kindness I want to give you. Many people fear doing it wrong. They fear that if the scene is imperfect, it will not work. They fear that if doubt appears, they have ruined everything. They fear that if they feel sleepy, they will miss something important. But listen to me. Sleep is not the enemy of this work. Sleep is the chamber in which it is sealed. The subconscious is not offended by your drowsiness. It welcomes it. The critical mind may be offended, because it likes to judge and measure. but the subconscious does not judge. It receives, so you do not need to fear making a mistake. You need only to be gentle. If the scene is simple and implies the end, that is enough. If the feeling is soft and real, that is enough. If you repeat it until you begin to feel the naturalness of it, that is enough. And if you fall asleep in it, you have done the very thing that makes it powerful. Now I will say something that may comfort you. You have entered the state akin to sleep many times in your life without knowing it. Every night you pass through it. And whatever you carried in feeling as you passed through, it was impressed. If you carried worry, you impressed worry. If you carried resentment, you impressed resentment. If you carried fear, you impressed fear. And then you wondered why tomorrow felt like yesterday. But tonight you are doing it knowingly. Tonight you are choosing. Tonight you are planting a different seed. Not with force, with consent. Not with strain, with gentleness. So let your body continue to sink. Let your breath continue to soften. Let the thoughts continue to float. And in that floating, hold one simple scene that implies the end. Hold it the way you would hold a feather, not the way you would hold a stone. And if it slips, pick it up again gently. And if sleep comes, let it come, because that is not losing the practice, that is completing it. Now in the next part, I will guide you into the first true planting, the feeling of relief, the feeling of it is already done, using one simple exchange that the subconscious receives easily. But for now, remain soft, remain unhurried, and let the doorway open. If you are still awake enough to listen, listen softly, as though you were listening to rain. And if you are already drifting, let these words reach you in the drifting. You do not need to sit up for this. You do not need to concentrate with effort. The very drowsiness you feel is part of the work. Tonight we are not trying to excite the mind. We are not trying to stir up emotion. We are not trying to generate fireworks within you. Those things belong to the restless day. Tonight we are planting a seed in quiet soil. And the seed we plant first is not a specific event. The seed we plant is a feeling. Relief. Because relief is the show of completion. Relief is the natural sensation of the wish fulfilled. Relief is what you feel when the matter is settled, when the burden is lifted, when the question is answered, when you no longer need to hold life up with anxious hands. So let us reduce all dispersion now. You may have many desires, and that is natural. The human heart has many longings, but a scattered mind plants scattered seeds. And scattered seeds do not grow with the same strength. So choose one desire tonight, only one. Not because you are limited, you are not limited, but because simplicity impresses the subconscious more deeply. One seed, planted well, will teach you the law, and once you know the law, you may apply it to anything. So choose now, quietly, the one thing that would bring you the deepest relief, not the thing that would make you most excited, not the thing that would shock you, the thing that would allow your body to exhale. It may be a matter of money, it may be a matter of health, it may be a matter of home, or family, or work. It may be a matter of being understood. It may be the lifting of a pressure you have carried in silence. Do not name it with great detail. Do not stir the mind into argument. Simply know it. A gentle knowing is enough. Now ask yourself softly, without strain, if that were already resolved, what would I feel? Again, not what would I do, not how would I celebrate, not what would I tell people. Simply, what would I feel in my body? And you will find, if you are honest, that the first feeling is often relief, a settling, a loosening, a quiet breath that goes deeper than the shallow breath of worry. So we will not chase excitement, we will not force joy, we will not demand certainty like a clenched fist, we will allow relief. Now there is a reason relief is so powerful, because relief contains an implication. Relief implies it is over, relief implies it is done, relief implies it is worked out. And the subconscious accepts implication. It receives it as fact. It does not need explanations. It does not require your reasoning. It only needs the mood, the tone, the atmosphere of completion. So listen now. I will give you a small scene, so small that the mind may want to dismiss it. Do not dismiss it. The seed is small, but the tree is great. Imagine that you are hearing the voice of someone you trust. It does not matter who. It may be a friend. It may be a loved one. It may simply be a kind voice. The voice is close, natural, ordinary, as though this were not a miracle, but simply life being as it should be. And you hear the voice say, "I'm so glad it worked out." Hear it quietly. Hear it with warmth. Not as a dramatic announcement, but as something so normal that it almost makes you smile. Now in that same little scene, hear yourself answer, just as naturally, "Yes, it did." That is all. There is no explanation, there is no story, there is no discussion of how it happened. It worked out. And you are now living after the fact. This is the secret. To live after the fact in imagination, not hoping, not waiting, not begging, confirming. So now we begin to repeat it, and as we repeat, we do it like a lullaby, slowly, gently, without urgency, without forcing emotion, without trying to make something happen, because something has already happened in this scene. So listen again. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. And now as you hear those words, let your body respond naturally. If it is worked out, the shoulders would soften. If it is worked out, the forehead would smooth. If it is worked out, the stomach would unclench. If it is worked out, the breath would deepen. So allow the body to receive that message. You do not need to command the body. You simply let it hear the truth, and the body will begin to agree. Now repeat again, gently. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. If your mind says, but it has not worked out yet, do not argue with the mind. Do not fight it. Do not scold yourself. Simply remember, we are not describing the outer world. We are entering a state, and states are entered by feeling. So return to the feeling. Return to the relief. Return to the calm. Return to the settledness. Now again, I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. And this time, notice something subtle. When you answer, yes, it did, you are not requesting, you are confirming. You are behaving inwardly as one who has received. And that is the only posture that creates. The subconscious responds to the one who has, not to the one who longs. Longing keeps the desire distant. Longing confesses absence. Longing says, it is not mine, and what is not mine remains not mine. But relief says, it is mine now. Relief says, it is finished. Relief says, I can rest. So let relief become your prayer. Now if you can, let the scene become even more intimate. Hear the tone in the voice. Hear the kindness. Hear the certainty. There is no suspense in that voice, is there? There is no worry. There is no, I hope it works out. It is worked out. That is why the voice is calm. So allow that calm to enter you. Now again, slowly. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. If you find your attention drifting, that is all right. Bring it back as you would gently bring back a feather that has floated away. No irritation, no urgency. Simply return. Return again to the small exchange, and let it be like rocking yourself into sleep. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Now as you repeat, you may notice a sigh. Do not interrupt the sigh. Let it come. That sigh is the body releasing the old state. That sigh is the body agreeing with relief. You may notice the shoulders dropping slightly. Let them drop. You may notice the breath lengthening. Let it lengthen. You may notice the muscles in the face softening. Let them soften. This is the body learning a new home. This is the body learning what it feels like to be finished with the struggle. You see, the body has lived in the state of not yet for so long that it has become tense as a habit. It has braced itself for disappointment. It has held itself tight as though tightness were protection. But tightness is not protection. Tightness is only the body rehearsing trouble. So tonight, the body learns something else. It learns the feeling of already done. Now let me speak to you with kindness about a fear that many carry. Many fear that if they do not feel this perfectly, they will fail. But perfection is not required. The subconscious is impressed by mood, by tendency, by what you return to. So if you return again and again to relief, you are doing the work, even if the mind interrupts, even if the scene flickers, even if you drift. The returning is the planting. So continue, gently. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Now, if your desire is something that has held fear in it, you may feel resistance when you try to accept relief. The mind may say, do not relax. If you relax, you will be hurt again. That is an old habit speaking. That is not wisdom. That is a state, and you are leaving that state tonight. So if resistance appears, do not push against it. Simply repeat the exchange again, even more softly, almost like a whisper inside. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. And let the answer, yes, it did, be like placing a warm hand upon the nervous system, a hand that says, you may stop watching, you may stop guarding, you may stop holding your breath. Now I want you to notice something important. The mind may still try to ask how it will happen. It may try to imagine the steps. It may try to plan. It may try to bargain. But in this practice, we do not negotiate with the how. The how belongs to the deeper mind. The how belongs to life's own wisdom. Your part is the end. Your part is the relief that implies completion. So if the mind begins to plan, gently let it go. Return to the simple words. Return to the feeling. Return to the sigh. Return to the settling. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Now as you repeat, you may notice the scene becoming less like a picture you are constructing and more like something you are remembering. This is a very good sign. When it begins to feel like remembering, the subconscious is accepting it. Because the subconscious receives imaginal acts that carry the tones of reality. And the tones of reality are not produced by effort. They are produced by naturalness. So do not push for naturalness. Let it come. Repeat the scene until the body begins to believe it. Until it feels ordinary. Until it feels like, of course. When you hear I'm so glad it worked out, and you answer, yes, it did, and the answer feels like the simplest truth in the world, then you have entered the state. Now you may fall asleep, and if you do, it is perfect, because the last impression on the subconscious will be the impression of completion. The last feeling will be relief. And what you feel as you fall asleep becomes law. Now I will add one small thing, very gentle, only if it feels natural. After you hear, I'm so glad it worked out, and you answer, yes, it did, allow a quiet gratitude to arise. Not forced gratitude, not gratitude spoken as a trick, gratitude as the natural fragrance of relief. If it is worked out, you would feel thankful. So you may whisper inwardly, very softly, thank you. And then you do not continue to talk, you rest. Again gently, I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. And if the heart whispers, thank you, let it whisper. Then silence, then rest. Now, my friends, if sleep is near, let it come nearer. Let the breath be slow. Let the body be heavy. Let the mind drift. And keep only this one simple exchange like a quiet lantern in the dark. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. One more time softly. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. And if you are already slipping into sleep, carry the relief with you. Carry the settledness. Carry the feeling of finished. The subconscious will do the work. It will arrange the bridge. It will move the pieces. You could never move with effort. Your work is to rest. Your work is to consent. Your work is to fall asleep in relief. And as I do, I want you to remain very soft. If you are awake, listen as though you are half dreaming. If you are drifting, let these words pass into you like a gentle current. You do not need to remember every sentence. The deeper mind remembers what it needs. Now there is a point where many people stumble, not because the law fails, but because they do not understand the nature of what they have just done. They enter the state at night. They feel relief. They taste the end. They fall asleep in the feeling of completion. And then they wake in the morning and look immediately at the world, searching for proof, searching for signs, searching for a change in the outer picture. And if they do not see it at once, They grow anxious. They say, perhaps it did not work. Perhaps I did it wrong. Perhaps I should have felt more. Perhaps one doubt ruined it. And in that anxious searching, they return to the old state. They step back into the room of not yet. They begin again to rehearse absence. And they do not realize they are digging up the seed. So I want to speak to you about this gently tonight. Not to burden you, but to protect you. There is nothing more natural than wanting reassurance. The human mind loves reassurance. It wants to see, it wants to touch, it wants to measure, it wants to say, now I am safe because I have proof. But the work we do is not built on proof. It is built on assumption. And assumption has a strange quality. It is quiet. It is inward. It precedes evidence. It plants first. It sees later. So you must understand the order of things. The inner act is the cause. The outer world is the effect. And effects do not appear at the exact moment the cause is planted. There is always a bridge. There is always an interval. There is always a natural delay. Just as there is a delay between a voice and its echo. If you stand in a canyon and speak a word, the canyon does not answer at the same instant you speak. It answers after a pause. If you do not understand that pause, you might think you were unheard, but you were heard. The echo is simply traveling back to you. In the same way, when you fall asleep in the wish fulfilled, you have spoken a word in consciousness. The world will echo it. But do not demand that it echo before it has time to travel. Now, let me give you the simplest image. Because the subconscious understands images far better than arguments. Think of a seed. The seed is small. It looks unimpressive. You place it in the soil. And then what do? You cover it. You leave it alone. You do not keep pulling the soil apart every hour to check whether it has begun to grow. If you did, you would disturb the very process you desire. You would expose it to air and light and dryness before it has taken root. The seed grows because it is left undisturbed. It grows in the dark. It grows in quiet. It grows in secrecy. And the most difficult thing for the anxious mind to accept is that real growth happens while you are not watching. That is why so many people fail. Not because they did not plant, but because they would not let the seed remain planted. They plant at night and dig in the morning. They assume for a moment and then return to the old story. They enter the end briefly and then spend the day living from the beginning again. So tonight, I want you to make peace with this. Once you have planted the feeling, you do not need to keep touching it with nervous hands. You do not need to keep asking, is it working? That question is itself a confession. It implies it is not yet done. It implies I am still waiting. It implies I am not sure I have it. And whatever you imply repeatedly becomes your state. So instead of asking, is it working, you learn a new way of being. You learn to live as though it is already set in motion, because it is. Now I will tell you something that may surprise you, but it is true. Most people believe the greatest enemy is doubt. They think if doubt appears, everything is ruined. But doubt is not the greatest enemy. Impatience is, because impatience is the habit of checking. Impatience is the habit of demanding proof. Impatience is the habit of looking at the mirror and insisting it change first. Impatience is what makes you abandon the state before it has time to become natural. And impatience is simply fear, wearing a different face. It says, what if it does not come? But if you have planted properly, it must come. The law does not fail. What fails is your willingness to remain in the end long enough for the echo to return. So I want to give you a simple protection. A gentle answer you can use tomorrow if the mind tries to pull you back into anxious checking. When you wake in the morning, you may look around and the world may appear unchanged. That does not mean you have failed. That means the world is still echoing yesterday. So if the mind says nothing is different, you answer without argument. Thank you, it is done. Not shouted, not repeated like a charm. Said once inwardly, as calmly as you would say, yes, I understand. Thank you. It is done. And then you go on with your day. Now you may ask, but Neville, Thank you to whom? Do not trouble yourself with that. Gratitude is not for a person outside you. Gratitude is the fragrance of possession. When you say thank you are not begging. You are acknowledging completion. You are behaving as one who has already received, and the subconscious understands that posture. So the phrase is not magic. The phrase is a key. It places you back into the state. And the second part of the phrase is just as important. It is done. Not, it will be done. Not, it might happen. Not, I hope it comes soon. It is done. Because it is done is the end. And the end is what you planted last night. So tomorrow when you move through your day, do not live like a watchman scanning the horizon for proof. Do not live like someone testing life every hour. Live normally, live simply. Attend to your duties, eat your meals, speak to people, walk where you must walk. But underneath it all, carry a quiet knowing, not a strained knowing, a soft knowing. The kind of knowing that does not need to argue. It is done. Now I want to help you understand something else, because it will save you from unnecessary fear. Many people worry that if they have one negative thought, they have undone the work. But a passing thought is not the same as a state. A cloud passing across the sky does not change the sky. It is only when you dwell in the cloud, when you build your home there, when you return there again and again, that it becomes your state. So if a fear appears tomorrow, do not panic. Panic would only be fear added to fear. Instead, treat the fear as an old habit, knocking at the door. You do not have to open the door. You do not have to invite it in. You simply return to the feeling you planted. You return to relief. You return to it worked out. You return to thank you. It is done. And then you go on. The return is power. The return is the practice. The return is what changes the habit of years. Now let me speak plainly about this habit of searching for signs, because it is subtle. The mind will say, I will just check once. It will say, I will just look to see if there is any movement. It will say, I will just test the situation. And it sounds innocent, but what is the feeling beneath it? It is not confidence. It is anxiety. It is the feeling of I am not sure. It is the feeling of I need proof to feel safe. And the moment you begin to seek proof in the outer world, you are turning away from the cause and back toward the effect. You are placing power again in appearances. You are saying, I will believe when I see. But the law works in the opposite direction. You see when you believe, you receive when you accept. The mirror reflects when the face changes. So the discipline is not harsh, it is gentle. It is simply this: do not keep asking the mirror for permission to be calm. Be calm, and the mirror will change. Do not keep demanding signs from the echo. Speak the word, and the echo will return. Now tomorrow may bring you ordinary events, a conversation, a chance meeting, a small opportunity, a delay that seems meaningless, a door closing, a door opening. And you may not immediately recognize any of it as related to your imaginal act. That is often how the bridge of incidents works. It looks ordinary while you are crossing it. It looks natural. And only afterward do you see how each step was necessary. So if you are constantly searching for signs, you may miss the bridge altogether. You may reject what life is offering, because it does not look like the final picture yet. You may say, this is not it, when it is the very first step. So I tell you, do not be a nervous judge of your day. Do not label every event. Do not say, this means I failed, or this means I succeeded. Those judgments are often the mind trying to regain control. Instead, hold the end. Hold the feeling, and let the day unfold. The bridge will build itself. You do not need to supervise it. Now, I want to give you a very simple way to move through tomorrow, if you can remember it. When you wake, do not rush into the old story. Do not reach for the weight. Do not immediately review problems. Instead, before you even rise, take a gentle breath and remember the feeling of last night, the relief, the settling, the sense of it worked out. even if you only remember it faintly, even if it is only a whisper, touch it, and then go on. And if at any point in the day the mind begins to tighten, if it begins to race, if it begins to ask, where is it? You return again to the simple phrase, thank you, it is done. And you do not argue with yourself. You do not debate. You do not attempt to convince the anxious mind with long reasoning. Long reasoning is effort. Effort is strain. Strain returns you to the old state. So you keep it short, like a bell, like a simple command. Thank you. It is done. And then you go on. Now, what does it mean to go on normally? It means you do not pretend outwardly. You do not put on a false mask. You do not speak in grand declarations to impress others. You simply live. You attend to what is in front of you. If you must pay a bill, you pay it without adding the story of doom. If you must speak to someone, you speak without rehearsing conflict. If you must wait, you wait without poisoning the waiting with fear. You live in the ordinary while holding the extraordinary inwardly. This is what it means to walk by faith. Not faith as strain, faith as quiet loyalty to the end. The world will still show you yesterday's picture for a while. That is natural. Do not be disturbed. A new state does not always burst forth at once in visible form, but it is forming, it is moving, it is arranging. And your only task is not to undo it by returning to the old confession. Now I want to speak to you as though you were a dear friend sitting beside me, because that is how I intend it. There will be moments tomorrow when you forget. You may slip into an old reaction. You may complain. You may worry for a moment. Do not make a tragedy of that. Do not say, I have ruined it. That is only another form of fear. Instead, be gentle with yourself. Return. Simply return. Return to the end. Return to relief. Return to thank you. It is done. And you will find that the returning becomes easier, and the old reaction becomes weaker. Because the subconscious learns what you consistently return to. It accepts as true what you consistently wear. So do not fear the momentary slip. Fear only the habit of dwelling in the sleep, and you are not going to dwell there tonight. You are learning a new way. Now let me say this clearly, because it is important. The law is faithful. The seed you plant does not require your anxious inspection. It requires your protection from being uprooted. That is all. So do not dig. Do not check. Do not demand proof. Do not count hours. Do not measure your day like a judge. Plant, rest, and then live gently. Let the echo return in its own time. Now, if you are still awake, allow these words to settle in you. And if sleep is taking you, let them settle even deeper. Because the subconscious hears them. The subconscious understands them. The subconscious receives the feeling behind them. And this feeling is safety. This feeling is calm. This feeling is completion. So tonight and tomorrow, your posture is simple. I do not force. I do not chase. I do not dig up the seed. I do not demand the echo instantly. I consent. And when doubt knocks, I answer kindly. Thank you, it is done. And then I rest again. Now, if you are ready, we will go further into the deeper stability, into the concept of self, the identity that makes this state not a momentary visit, but a home. But for now, stay soft, stay unhurried. Let the body remain heavy. Let the breath remain slow. And if sleep comes, let it come as the one who has already planted and will not dig up the seed. If sleep is near, let it come near. If you are still listening, listen without effort, as though you are listening from far inside your own chest. Nothing I say now requires you to sit upright. Nothing requires you to hold attention, like a clenched fist. The deeper mind receives best when the surface mind relaxes. Now I want to speak of something that determines more than any single event, more than any one desire, more than any particular outcome. It determines the pattern of your life. And because it determines the pattern, it determines what keeps returning to you again and again. It is your concept of self, not the story you tell others, not the mask you wear in public, not the role you perform to be accepted. I mean the quiet inward feeling of who you are, the silent assumption you carry about yourself when no one is watching, the name you secretly give yourself in the privacy of your own mind. Most people try to change a single event, but they do not change the one who is living the event. They seek a different picture on the wall, but they keep living in the same room. And because the room remains the same, the pictures eventually return to their old likeness. So tonight, very gently, we do not aim only for a momentary change. We aim for stability. We aim for a new pattern. We aim to become the kind of person for whom the desired outcome is natural. Do you see what this means? It means you are not trying to win a single victory and then fear the next day. You are not trying to receive one gift and then go back to anxiety. You are not trying to fix one problem and then wait for another. You are moving into a new identity, an identity that produces a new kind of life. This is why I have always said that you do not get what you want. You get what you are. And by what you are, I do not mean your body, your age, your circumstances, or the facts of yesterday. I mean the state you occupy. I mean the concept of self you accept as true. If you accept yourself as someone who struggles, life will continue to show you struggle, even if you have moments of relief. If you accept yourself as someone who is overlooked, you may receive attention briefly, but the old pattern will return, because the deeper assumption remains. If you accept yourself as someone who is not provided for, you may receive a gift, and then fear will return, because the identity underneath the gift has not changed. But if you accept yourself as the one who is provided for, the one who is guided, the one for whom things work out, then you are planting a pattern, not a single event. And patterns are powerful. Patterns are what the subconscious loves. The subconscious takes what you repeatedly wear and makes it your world. So tonight, I am going to give you 3 simple descriptions, not affirmations to be shouted, not phrases to be forced. Descriptions like describing the sky as blue, like describing water as wet. Descriptions you begin to wear inwardly until they feel like you. And the first is this: I am the one for whom things work out. Do not rush past it. Let it land softly. Let it be like a warm cloth placed over the nervous system. I am the one for whom things work out. Now you may notice the mind trying to argue. It may bring up a memory. It may say, but that is not true. Look at what happened. Look at what did not happen. Do not fight that. Do not debate it. Debate belongs to the old state. Debate is how the mind keeps you loyal to yesterday. Instead, treat the mind's protest as you would treat a tired child who is used to complaining. You do not punish it. You do not reason with it for an hour. You simply return to the description. I am the one for whom things work out. Now, why is this so important? Because the one for whom things work out moves differently through the day, not outwardly in a show, but inwardly in expectation. He does not wake expecting trouble. He does not approach life braced for disappointment. He does not look at every delay as doom. He does not treat every silence as rejection. He carries a quiet assumption, and that assumption is like a perfume. It enters every room before he enters it. It colors every conversation before the words are spoken. So to become the one for whom things work out is to begin living from an inward expectancy of good, not loud optimism, not foolish denial, a quiet, steady feeling that says, it will resolve, it will align, it will open, it will work out. And because the world reflects states, the world begins to echo that expectancy in 1,000 natural ways. Now the second description is this: I am the one who is provided for. Again, do not strain with it. Do not try to produce a great emotion. Let it be a gentle recognition, like remembering a truth you once knew. I am the one who is provided for. This does not mean you never act. It does not mean you never make practical choices. It means you are no longer living from the feeling of abandonment. You are no longer carrying the identity of I must handle everything alone. You are no longer confessing, even silently, there is not enough, and I must fight for scraps. You are moving into the feeling that life supports you. That help comes. That supply is natural, that you are not outside the stream of good. And the third description is this: I am the one who is guided. Let it be soft. I am the one who is guided. Now, what does it mean to be guided? It means you are not lost. It means you are not wandering through life with no intelligence behind it. It means there is an order moving through you and through events, and you are part of it. It means the right idea comes at the right time. The right meeting occurs without strain. The right path opens as you walk. Guidance does not always come as thunder. More often, it comes as a quiet nudge, a calm clarity, a simple feeling of this way. When you accept yourself as guided, you stop panicking about every decision. You stop imagining that one wrong step will destroy you. You stop living in fear of mistakes. You begin to move with trust. So these three descriptions form a new self-concept. I am the one for whom things work out. I am the one who is provided for. I am the one who is guided. Now, do not turn this into a burden. Do not try to repeat it 50 times with a clenched jaw. That would only be the old state, wearing a new costume. We are not dressing up anxiety and calling it faith. We are entering a new room. So instead of forcing these descriptions, you let them describe you. You let them sink below the surface. You let them become an atmosphere. Imagine you are putting on a garment. The garment is not heavy. It is not stiff. It is warm. It fits. It feels natural. You put it on, and then you stop thinking about it. It becomes part of you. So tonight, in the quiet, you put on this garment. I am the one for whom things work out. And you wear it gently. I am the one who is provided for. And you wear it gently. I am the one who is guided. And you wear it gently. Now you may say, but Neville, how do I wear it? What does it feel like? Let me answer that simply. A new self-concept always has a feeling tone. Every state has its own atmosphere. The state of being anxious has a feeling tone: tightness, urgency, scanning, bracing. The state of being provided for has another feeling tone: softness, ease, quiet assurance. The state of being guided has another: calm, steadiness, trust. So you do not need to force thoughts. You cultivate a feeling tone. Let the body learn it. If you are the one for whom things work out, the shoulders are not lifted in dread, they drop. If you are provided for, the stomach does not clench as though you must protect yourself from starvation. It softens. If you are guided, the breath does not race as though you are lost in a storm. It slows. So as you lie here, let your body practice the posture of this new identity. Not because posture makes it true, but because posture reveals what you have accepted as true. Now I want to show you how this becomes natural. Because naturalness is the key. A state hardens into fact when it feels natural. When it stops feeling like an exercise and starts feeling like this is simply me. And the way you reach naturalness is not by forcing belief. It is by dwelling. You dwell in the new concept of self, the way you dwell in a home. You do not visit it for a moment and then go back to your old dwelling of worry. You move in, you sit down, you live there, you sleep there. That is why a meditation like this is meant to be heard again and again. Not because the words are magic, but because repetition makes a state familiar. Familiarity becomes natural, and what is natural becomes visible. Now do not make repetition into anxiety. You return because you enjoy the feeling. You return because it is restful. You return because you are learning a new home. So tonight, as you drift, let these three descriptions come again, slowly, like waves. I am the one for whom things work out. And you do not add, I hope. You do not add, someday. You do not add, if I am lucky. You simply let it stand. I am the one for whom things work out. I am the one who is provided for. I am the one who is guided. Now, if your mind protests, let it protest. The mind has protested every new thing you have ever learned. The first time you learned to walk, the body trembled. The first time you learned to write, the hand shook. The first time you learned anything new, it felt awkward. So do not condemn yourself. If this new identity feels unfamiliar at first, unfamiliar does not mean false. Unfamiliar means new. And what is new becomes natural by dwelling. Now let me speak of a subtle mistake people make, because it will help you avoid it. They try to use these phrases as a weapon. They repeat them to fight fear. They repeat them in panic, hoping to drown out doubt by volume. But that is not the use of them. That is still struggle. These are not weapons. They are descriptions. You are not trying to convince the world with them. You are allowing the subconscious to accept a new pattern. So speak them inwardly, as one who is noticing something, not as one who is arguing. Like this, I am the one for whom things work out. And then you pause. And in the pause, you let your body feel what that would be like. A quiet ease, a gentle confidence. Then, I am the one who is provided for. And you pause. And in the pause, you let the heart soften. Then I am the one who is guided. And you pause. And in the pause, you allow the mind to loosen its grip. These pauses are important. The pauses let the feeling rise. The feeling is what impresses the deeper mind. Now, I want to give you a tiny imaginal moment that matches this self-concept, because the subconscious loves images. Keep it simple, keep it short, keep it like a lullaby. Imagine that tomorrow, at some ordinary moment, you feel the old anxiety begin to rise. Perhaps it is a familiar place in the day. Perhaps it is when you look at something, or remember something, or anticipate something, and in that moment, instead of going into the old habit, you simply hear yourself say inwardly, very calmly, things work out for me. Notice how different this is from begging. Notice how different it is from checking. It is a simple knowing, and then you feel the body relax, and you go on. Now imagine another moment tomorrow, perhaps when you would usually feel pressure about supply, about time, about money, about responsibility. And in that moment, you hear yourself say inwardly, I am provided for, not as poetry, not as pretend, as a quiet assumption. And you feel the shoulders drop, you feel the breath deepen, you feel the pressure lessen. Now imagine another moment, perhaps at a decision, perhaps at a crossroad, perhaps at a conversation, and in that moment you hear yourself say inwardly, I am guided. And you feel calm, you feel steady. You do not rush, you do not panic, you do not fear that one step will destroy you. You are guided. Now, that is self-concept. It is not a speech, it is not a performance, it is the silent inner climate you carry. And the world responds to climate. So when you carry the climate of things work out, you begin to meet events that work out. When you carry the climate of I am provided for, you begin to meet provision. When you carry the climate of I am guided, you begin to meet guidance. Not because the world is being forced, but because the world is reflecting. Now I want to speak to you with great kindness about something many people fear. They fear that life will take advantage of them if they relax. They fear that if they stop pushing, nothing will happen. They fear that only strain produces results. But that is the old training speaking. You have been trained to worship effort. You have been trained to believe that if you are not anxious, you are careless. And so when you begin to adopt a new self-concept, the old self may try to pull you back with guilt. It may say, who are you to feel guided? Who are you to feel provided for? Who are you to assume things work out? And you answer that voice in the simplest way. I am the one. Not angrily, not proudly, quietly. I am the one for whom things work out. I am the one who is provided for. I am the one who is guided. Now notice the word one. It implies identity. It implies selection. It implies that this is not a temporary mood. It is who you are. So you are not reaching for a miracle outside yourself. You are becoming a new self inside yourself. And the new self is the cause. This is why I prefer to speak of states as rooms in a house. You are not creating a house. The house is already built. Creation is finished. Every state already exists. Your only work is to enter. So tonight, you are entering the room called the one who receives. And receiving is not grabbing. Receiving is not chasing. Receiving is not begging. Receiving is the natural openness of one who expects to be given what belongs to them. Now, if you want a simple way to feel the one who receives, it is this: allow yourself to stop reaching. Reaching is the feeling of not yet. Receiving is the feeling of already, so even your body can learn it. The reaching body leans forward, tight, braced. The receiving body leans back, heavy, supported. So let yourself be supported. Let the bed hold you. Let the chair hold you. Let the night hold you. And in that holding, let your identity change. I am the one for whom things work out. I am the one who is provided for. I am the one who is guided. Now, do you see how this removes fear? Because if this is who you are, you do not need to cling. You do not need to chase. You do not need to force. You do not need to panic at every delay. You begin to trust the bridge of incidents without needing to see it all at once. You begin to move through the day with a quieter mind. And that quieter mind is not empty. It is powerful, because the quiet mind does not misuse imagination. The quiet mind does not rehearse disaster. The quiet mind does not plant weeds in the soil. The quiet mind holds the end lightly, and because it holds it lightly, it holds it steadily. Now I will give you a gentle repetition, slow enough for sleep. If you are awake, you may listen. If you are asleep, you may still receive. I am the one for whom things work out. Pause. I am the one who is provided for. Pause. I am the one who is guided. Pause. And again, like waves, I am the one for whom things work out. I am the one who is provided for. I am the one who is guided. And now notice what happens. The mind begins to stop arguing. The body begins to soften. The sense of life as a fight begins to fade. You begin to feel, perhaps for the first time in a long while, that you do not have to carry the world on your shoulders. This is not fantasy. This is a state. And states harden into fact. Now, I want you to understand one last thing about self-concept tonight, because it is the secret of stability. A single event can come and go. A sum of money can appear and disappear. A person can come and then leave. A circumstance can change and then change again. But a self-concept, once changed, produces again and again. If you become the one who is provided for, provision becomes your pattern. If you become the one who is guided, guidance becomes your pattern. If you become the one for whom things work out, life begins to work out in ways that surprise you, not once, but continually, because you have changed the source. So our aim is not luck. Our aim is law. Our aim is not a single triumph. Our aim is a new way of being. And if you can feel even a small taste of that tonight, if you can sense the beginning of a new identity settling in, then you have done something far greater than wish for a change. You have become the change. Now remain soft. Let the breath be slow. Let the body be heavy. Let the phrases be like a quiet cradle. I am the one for whom things work out. I am the one who is provided for. I am the one who is guided. And if sleep comes now, let it come with that identity resting upon you like a warm garment. Because what you feel as you fall asleep becomes law. If you are still awake, listen gently. If you are drifting, let these words enter you as though they were part of a dream. Nothing here requires strain. In fact, the less strain, the better. For the thing we speak of now cannot be managed by strain. It can only be allowed. When you have entered the end in imagination, when you have felt it as done, when you have tasted relief, when you have worn the state as natural, something begins at once, not always visibly, not always dramatically, but certainly. Life begins to build what I have called the bridge of incidents. It is a phrase, but do not let it become a concept you hold tightly. It is simply a way of naming an experience that you have already known many times in your life, though you may not have recognized it. Have you ever looked back on something that happened to you, something important, something that changed your path, and you realized afterward that it came through a series of ordinary events? A conversation you almost did not have, a place you nearly did not go, a delay that seemed inconvenient, a meeting that appeared by chance, a door that closed, only to guide you to another door. At the time, it felt like life unfolding. Later, you saw the pattern. That pattern is the bridge. The bridge is the natural sequence of events that leads you from where you are to where you have assumed yourself to be. And it is built not by your anxious planning, not by your strained intelligence, not by your desperate effort to control every step. It is built by the deeper mind. It is built by the subconscious. It is built by that unseen order within you that knows the way far better than the little surface mind that tries to calculate everything in fear. Now the mind, trained in the old way, wants to interfere. It wants to choose the path. It wants to dictate the manner. It wants to say, it must come this way, and by this time, and through this person, and under these conditions. And when it does not arrive according to that narrow plan, the mind becomes frightened and concludes that nothing is happening. But something is happening. The bridge is happening. And the bridge will often look ordinary. That is one of its great secrets. It is not announced by trumpets. It does not wear a sign that says, this is the fulfillment of your imaginal act. It will look like a natural day. It will look like an ordinary conversation. It will look like an invitation, a letter, an impulse, a change of mind, a small opening, a small closing, a simple step. And only after you have crossed the bridge will you be able to look back and say, ah, that was the bridge. That was how it was built. So you must understand this. You may not recognize the bridge while you are walking on it. And that is why you must not judge your days too quickly. Many people plant the seed at night and then rise in the morning as judges. They judge every event. They judge every silence. They judge every delay. They judge every small disappointment as proof of failure. But a judge cannot receive. A judge interferes. The one who receives remains faithful to the end and allows the bridge to be built. Now let me speak to you about control, because this is where the mind loves to return. Control feels like safety to the anxious mind. It says, if I can control the details, I will not be surprised. If I can control the path, I will not be hurt. If I can foresee every turn, I will be safe. But life does not yield to that kind of control. Life is larger than your calculation, and the attempt to control the bridge only creates tension, and tension returns you to the old state. So your task is not to control the bridge. Your task is to remain in the end, to hold the feeling of the wish fulfilled, to live from the state that says it is already done, and then to let the means arrange itself. Let this be a sentence you carry lightly, like a feather in the hand. I do not choose the means. I only choose the end. Again, softly, without strain. I do not choose the means. I only choose the end. Now, if the mind tries to argue, let it argue. The mind will always argue when it is learning something new. It has lived in control for so long that surrender feels unfamiliar. But unfamiliar does not mean wrong. Unfamiliar means you are leaving an old room, and you are leaving it tonight. For the bridge of incidents is not built by the man who insists on controlling the stones. It is built by the man who knows the end and walks calmly, allowing the path to appear under his feet. Now, you may ask, but Neville, how can I be sure the bridge is being built? What if nothing happens? Listen carefully. The moment you have assumed the end, the bridge has begun. Not later, not after you see a sign. At once. Because the subconscious accepts the state, and once it is accepted, it begins to move everything necessary to externalize it. You do not see those movements, because most of them are happening in places you are not looking. In other minds, in other rooms, in other conversations, in other arrangements of circumstance, in the timing of events, in the stirring of impulses, in the shifting of decisions. Life is always moving. And when you impress the subconscious with a new state, life moves in a new pattern. But you must not demand to see the whole pattern at once. If you could see it, you would be tempted to interfere. And interference is delay. So the bridge is often hidden from your conscious view, for your own protection. Now let me give you an image that will help you sleep, because it is simple. Imagine you have written a letter and sent it. The moment you place it in the post, It is out of your hands. You cannot chase it down the road. You cannot stand at every corner and demand it show itself. You cannot open the bag and check it each hour. You send it and then you live. And then one day the reply comes. Your imaginal act is like sending a letter. You have addressed it to the deepest part of your being. You have impressed it with feeling. You have placed it into the silent post of sleep. Now you do not chase it. You do not harass it. You do not demand it prove itself at once. You let it travel. You let it work. You let it arrive. The bridge is the journey of that letter. Now you may say, but what if the bridge includes events I do not like? What if something happens that feels like a setback? This is a very important question, and many have stumbled here. They have assumed the end, and then, when life begins to rearrange itself, they panic. They do not realize that the rearrangement may include the removal of what no longer belongs to the new state. Sometimes a door closes because it must close. Sometimes an old arrangement dissolves because it cannot carry you into the new. Sometimes a disappointment appears because it is clearing the way for a greater fulfillment. But if you judge those events from the old state, you will call them failure. And if you accept them as failure, you will return to the old state. So you must learn a new way of seeing. Not seeing with the eyes of fear, but seeing with the understanding that the bridge may not always look pleasant while it is being built. A bridge under construction can look messy. There may be noise. There may be movement. There may be things taken apart. There may be dust. But the construction is not destruction. It is building. So when something shifts, do not hurry to call it loss. Do not hurry to call it denial. Do not hurry to call it proof that you did it wrong. Instead, return to the end. Return to relief. Return to the quiet knowing the bridge is forming. Now I am not asking you to pretend you enjoy every moment. I am asking you not to interpret every moment as the final word. For the final word is the end you have assumed, and that end is already accepted within you. Now let me speak to you as one who has watched this law operate again and again. The bridge of incidents is always natural. That is its nature. It does not force you into strange, theatrical behavior. It does not require you to become someone you are not. It unfolds through your ordinary life, through your ordinary movements, through natural impulses and ordinary conversations. One day you feel moved to go somewhere you would not normally go, and you go without knowing why. And there you meet someone, and that meeting becomes a link in the chain. One day you feel prompted to speak a word, to write a letter, to make a call, and you do it. And that small act becomes a stone in the bridge. One day you receive an invitation, and it seems insignificant, and you accept it, and it leads you to the very thing you assumed. Often you will say afterward, it happened so naturally, and that is always the mark of it. The bridge does not look like magic while it is happening. It looks like life. Now, because it looks like life, the anxious mind may miss it. It may say, this cannot be it. This is too ordinary. But the law loves the ordinary. The law clothes the extraordinary in ordinary garments, so that it may enter your world without resistance. So do not despise the small steps. Do not reject the ordinary. Do not say, this is not big enough to be the fulfillment. The fulfillment is not a single thunderclap. It is an unfolding, and the unfolding will be made of small steps, each one natural, each one lawful. Now there is another temptation. I must save you from the temptation to specify the path. It is natural to desire a particular route. The mind loves a particular route because it can imagine it, it can see it, it can feel in control of it. But the mind's imagination of the route is often too small. The deeper mind sees possibilities you cannot see. It knows people you do not know. It can arrange circumstances beyond your conscious planning. So if you insist on the route, you may prevent the deeper mind from choosing a better route. You may blind yourself to the fulfillment already coming by another door. So choose the end and leave the door open. Do not say, it must come this way. Say, it is done, and let the way reveal itself. Now I want to give you a phrase that will help you relax into this, because relaxation is the key. Say inwardly, very gently, I do not dictate the bridge. I walk it. Again, softly. I do not dictate the bridge. I walk it. And one more time, I do not dictate the bridge. I walk it. Now walking the bridge does not mean striving. It means living normally, while remaining faithful to the end. It means not interfering with fear. It means not digging up the seed. It means not demanding proof every hour. It means letting the day be the day, and letting the night be the night. Now perhaps you are thinking, but Neville, what if I miss the bridge? What if I do not recognize the right step? You cannot miss what belongs to the state you occupy. If you are faithful to the end, you will find yourself moving along the bridge naturally. The steps will come with their own impulse. You will not have to guess. You will not have to force. You will feel led. That is why we have accepted, I am guided. And guidance is not dramatic. It is quiet. It is a calm inclination. It is an ease. So if you remain in the state, you will move as the state moves. The bridge will not require your anxious genius. It will require only your non-interference. Now, let me illustrate this with a simple experience that many have had. A man desires something, perhaps a new position, a new home, a reconciliation, a freedom. He goes to sleep night after night, feeling it as done. And then, one day, something happens that looks like a trouble. Perhaps he loses a position. Perhaps a plan falls through. Perhaps someone says no, and he is tempted to say, it has failed. But if he holds to the end, he finds that the trouble was the first step on the bridge. The loss created space. The closing door directed him to a new opening. The no led him to a yes greater than he could have planned. If he had judged too quickly, he would have returned to the old state and missed the bridge. So you must learn not to judge while you are crossing. The bridge cannot be seen from the middle with the same clarity as from the end. From the middle, it looks like ordinary life, with its turns and changes. From the end, it looks like perfect arrangement. Now you may still feel fear sometimes when events shift. That is natural. The human heart is tender. But when fear arises, you do not feed it with stories. You return to the end. You return to thank you. It is done. You return to relief. And you go on. This is how you protect the seed while the bridge forms. Now, I want to speak to you directly, as though speaking to the deeper mind within you, because it is hearing me. The bridge is being built now, not tomorrow, not after you see evidence. Now, because the state has been accepted, and what is accepted must externalize. So there is no need to rush, there is no need to chase, there is no need to decide how it must happen. You are not the builder of the bridge. You are the one who has chosen the end. The builder works in secret. The builder works in silence. The builder works while you sleep. So let it. Now let me give you another image, very simple, that will help the mind stop interfering. Imagine you are watching a play. The actors are on the stage, but behind the curtain there is a director. There are stage hands. There are arrangements being made that you cannot see. The actors do not stop the play every moment to run backstage and supervise the stage hands. If they did, the play would never progress. They remain in their role. They speak their lines. They move in the scene. And the unseen work backstage supports the unfolding. Your life is like this. You are not meant to run backstage with anxious hands, trying to manage every detail of the set. You are meant to remain in the state you have assumed, to live from it, to speak from it, to feel from it. And the unseen arrangements, the bridge of incidents, will be handled by the deeper mind. Now, what is your line in this play? Your line is the end. Your line is the quiet assumption. Your line is the feeling of completion. Your line is relief. It is done. And when you remain loyal to that line, the rest arranges itself. Now notice how gentle this makes life. It does not mean you do nothing. It means you stop doing the wrong thing. You stop doing worry. You stop doing anxious supervision. You stop doing constant measuring. You stop doing frantic mental movement that produces only exhaustion. Instead, you do one thing well. You occupy the end. Now, if you find this difficult, it is only because you have lived so long in the habit of control. But control is a habit, and habits can be changed. And one of the easiest ways to change a habit is to stop feeding it. So tonight, do not feed control. Do not feed it with questions like, how will it happen? Do not feed it with demands like, show me now. Do not feed it with rehearsals of failure. Instead, feed the new habit. Trust. Trust is not blindness. Trust is not foolishness. Trust is simply refusing to interfere with the law once the seed is planted. Trust is walking as the one who has already received. Trust is allowing the bridge to form. Now you might wonder, how will I know I am walking the bridge? You will not always know, and that is a mercy. But you will know by the feeling you carry. If you are carrying the end, you are on the bridge. If you are carrying relief, you are on the bridge. If you are carrying the identity of the one who receives, you are on the bridge. And if you slip into fear, you return. That is all. Return. Because the bridge does not collapse because you stumbled. The bridge is built by the deeper mind. You return to the end and you continue. Now let me speak of a subtle form of interference that many do not notice. They do not always interfere by fear. Sometimes they interfere by excitement. They become excited, and excitement turns into impatience. They begin to say, it is coming, it is coming. And then they scan the world for signs to confirm their excitement. And when they do not see what they want immediately, excitement turns into disappointment, and disappointment turns into doubt. So the key is not excitement. The key is steadiness, relief, calm, a quiet certainty. And this is why we chose relief as the first feeling. Relief is steady. Relief does not demand proof every hour. Relief rests. So if you find yourself excited and then restless, return to relief. Return to it worked out. Return to thank you, it is done. Now I want to make this even more practical for you, but in a way that does not make you wakeful. Tomorrow you will have moments. You will have ordinary moments. And in those moments, the bridge may be presenting you with a step. It will not say, this is the bridge. It may appear as an impulse to do something simple, to speak to someone, to go somewhere, to open a letter, to read something, to accept an invitation, to rest when you would usually push, to say yes when you would usually hesitate, to say no when you would usually compromise. And you may not even connect it to your imaginal act. But if you are faithful to the end, you will find yourself taking these steps naturally. Not with strain, not with overthinking, because the state itself will move you. You see, the state is not only a picture, it is a motor. It is a cause. It produces movements. When you truly occupy the end, you begin to think from it. You begin to act from it. And those actions are not forced. They are natural expressions of the new identity. So the bridge will not feel like you are being dragged. It will feel like you are being led. And this is why it is so important not to insist on seeing the whole bridge at once. You do not need the whole bridge. You only need the next natural step. And the next step will come. Now, let me calm another fear. Many are afraid that if they do not plan the bridge will be slow. But planning does not speed it. Planning often delays it, because planning keeps you in the state of not yet. Planning keeps you in the state of I must make this happen, whereas acceptance puts you in the state of it is happening. And the law moves from that state. So the speed of the bridge is not determined by your anxious effort. It is determined by the firmness of the state. The more natural the end feels, the more effortlessly the bridge forms. Naturalness is the great secret. When the end feels natural to you, you stop looking for it. You stop needing proof. You stop checking. And when you stop checking, you stop interrupting. And when you stop interrupting, the bridge moves with astonishing ease. So do not ask how long will it take. That question belongs to the old state. Instead, ask gently, how natural can I let it become? How natural can it feel that it is already done? And the more natural it becomes, the faster you will find yourself crossing. Now I will say something that you must remember. because it will keep you from fear when events appear strange. The bridge does not always match your logic. The bridge matches your end. So if you insist on logic, you may reject the bridge. But if you hold to the end, you will walk it, even when you do not understand it. And afterward, you will understand. This is how it has always been. When you are a child, you do not understand the full meaning of what happens. You only live it. Years later, you understand. The bridge is like that. It is lived first, understood later. So do not require understanding as a condition of faith. Faith is not understanding. Faith is loyalty. Loyalty to the end. Loyalty to the state you have accepted. So when confusion arises, you do not demand clarity at once. You return to the end. It is done. When delays arise, you do not call them denial. You return to the end. It is done. When the mind says, "This is not the way I expected," you answer gently, "I do not choose the means, I only choose the end." Now, I want to speak to you again, as though speaking to your deeper mind, because it is listening. The bridge is forming now. You are being guided now. Provision is being arranged now. Things are working out now, even if you cannot see it, even if the world still echoes yesterday, even if the evidence has not yet caught up. This is why you can rest. Because the builder does not sleep. The builder works while you sleep. Now, if it helps you, imagine the bridge as a weaving, a great weaving of threads. Each thread is a conversation. Each thread is a meeting. Each thread is an event. Each thread is a timing. And the weaver sees the whole pattern, but you see only the thread in your hand. So do not pull it in fear. Do not knot it with worry. Do not cut it with doubt. Hold it gently and let the weaver weave. Now notice how this changes your life. You stop struggling with the world. You stop blaming the world. You stop trying to force the mirror. You stop trying to make the echo obey instantly. Instead, you become quiet. You become faithful. You become the one who receives. And the bridge carries you. Now let us return to something very simple, because simplicity is what allows sleep. If you have assumed the end, the bridge is inevitable. You do not need to see it to trust it. You only need to remain in the end. So tonight, if you are still awake, let these words sink in with no effort. Do not choose the path. Choose the end. Do not dictate the bridge. Walk it. Do not demand signs. Remain faithful. And if doubt appears, answer softly, "Thank you, it is done." Now the mind may say, "But what if I make a mistake tomorrow?" You will not ruin the bridge with a small mistake. A passing thought is not the same as a state. A momentary fear is not the same as dwelling in fear. If you stumble, you return. That is all. The bridge is patient. The bridge is faithful, because the bridge is built by the law, not by your perfection. So do not fear your humanity. Do not fear that you must be flawless. All you must do is return. Return to the end. Return to relief. Return to the identity. I am the one for whom things work out. I am the one who is provided for. I am the one who is guided, and the bridge will keep forming. Now, as you listen, you may already be feeling that sweet heaviness that comes before sleep. Let it increase. Let the body sink. Let the breath slow. Let the mind stop reaching. Because the more you stop reaching, the more you stop interfering. And the less you interfere, the more perfectly the bridge can be built. So you may rest now in this knowledge. You have planted the end. The means are being arranged. The bridge is forming. It will look natural. You may not recognize it until afterward. So you do not demand that you recognize it. You only remain faithful to the end. You only rest. And the law will do what it always does. It will externalize the state. It will lead you, step by ordinary events, to the fulfillment you have assumed. Now if sleep is taking you, let it take you with this feeling. I do not choose the means. I only choose the end. And the end is done. If sleep is already near, let it be near. If your thoughts are fading at the edges, let them fade. If your body feels heavy, let it be heavy. Nothing is required of you now except to be carried. This is the night portion, the quiet sealing of what has already been planted. There is a way of doing this that is so simple. The mind may try to make it complicated, but we will not allow that tonight. We will not turn this into a labor. We will not turn it into a test. We will let it be what it truly is, a lullaby to the subconscious, a soft closing of the door on the old state, and a gentle entrance into the new. You have already touched the end. You have already tasted relief. You have already accepted a new concept of self. You have already decided not to dig up the seed, not to demand signs, not to choose the means. All of that is enough. Now we seal it, and we seal it, not by doing more, but by doing less. We seal it by returning to the simplest scene, the smallest moment that implies everything is finished. We return to it as one returns to a familiar room, not with excitement, not with urgency, but with the quiet comfort of belonging. So let your attention, if it can, grow even softer. Let it become like a feather. You do not grip a feather, you simply let it rest in the palm. And if it drifts, you allow it to drift and return it gently. That is the spirit of this practice. Now, before we return to the short scene, I want you to notice the quiet change in the body that comes when you truly accept that something is completed. Think of an ordinary day when you have finished a task that has weighed upon you. Perhaps you have written a letter you dreaded writing. Perhaps you have made a call you postponed. Perhaps you have settled a matter that had been hanging over you. The moment it is finished, something releases. Not because you have received a reward, but because the mind stops holding the question. Completion has a feeling. It has a tone. It has a softness. It has a gentle finality. That feeling is what we want to carry into sleep, not merely the thought of completion, the feeling, because feeling is the language of the deeper mind. And the deeper mind will take what you feel as your last impression and will build from it faithfully. So now we return. Let it be simple. Imagine very gently that you hear a voice. It does not matter whose voice, only that it is kind, and it is calm, and it is close. It speaks as though there is no suspense left. It speaks as though the matter has already been settled. And the voice says, "I'm so glad it worked out." Now do not hurry to answer. Let the words enter you. Let them land in the chest. Let them settle into the belly. Let them soften the shoulders. Let them smooth the brow. "I'm so glad it worked out." And then, as naturally as you can, hear yourself answer, "Yes, it did." Again, no explanation, no details, no how, no when, no argument. Yes, it did. Now let your body respond to those words. If it worked out, you are allowed to breathe. If it worked out, you are allowed to rest. If it worked out, you are allowed to stop carrying the tension. So if a sigh comes, let it come. If the breath lengthens, let it lengthen. If the eyelids grow heavier, let them grow heavy. Now again gently, like a rocking motion. "I'm so glad it worked out." Yes, it did. And now, very softly, add the smallest whisper of gratitude. Not as a technique, not as a trick, not as a bargain. Gratitude as the natural fragrance of completion. Gratitude as what rises in the heart when it knows something is finished. So after you answer, "Yes, it did," you may allow a quiet thank you to appear within you, not loud, not repeated, just a soft breath of gratitude. "Thank you." And then silence again. Now you return to the scene. "I'm so glad it worked out." "Yes, it did. Thank you." And silence. This is how we seal it. We do not keep talking. We do not keep analyzing. We do not keep checking. We do not keep measuring. We simply repeat the end until the end begins to feel like home. Now I want you to notice something subtle. When you first begin to do this, the mind sometimes tries to remain active. It tries to ask questions. It tries to pull you into details. It tries to argue with the simplicity. It says, "That cannot be enough." It says, "Surely I must do more." It says, "Surely I must understand more." But the subconscious does not require more. It requires acceptance. It requires the tone of reality. It requires the feeling of already done. And the simplest scene repeated gently produces the feeling far more easily than a complicated story. So if the mind tries to complicate, you do not wrestle it, you simply return. Return to the short exchange. Return to the kindness in the voice. Return to the calm in your own answer. Return to the relief in the body. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. And silence. Now if you feel yourself slipping, let yourself slip. The slipping is not loss. The slipping is the very doorway. The slipping is what allows the impression to sink. The slipping is what makes the work deep. In the waking state, the mind argues. In the drowsy state, the mind receives. So if you find yourself drifting away mid-sentence, let it happen. You are not failing. You are succeeding. You are letting the meditation do the work. Now to help you, I will slow the rhythm even more. I will give you space between the phrases. I want you to feel as though you have all the time in the world. There is no urgency in completion. Urgency belongs to the old state of not yet. The new state is finished, and therefore it is unhurried. Hear the voice again. I'm so glad it worked out. Pause. Hear yourself answer. Yes, it did. Pause. Let the quiet gratitude rise, if it rises. Thank you. Pause. And now let the body sink further into rest. Let the shoulders drop. Let the hands rest. Let the jaw soften. Let the tongue lie quiet. Let the breath be slow. Now again, as though you are rocking a cradle. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. Now you may notice that as you repeat this, the scene becomes less like something you are doing and more like something that is happening. It begins to run on its own. Like a gentle stream, the words come, the feeling follows, the body responds, the mind grows quiet. That is the ideal. You do not need to push the stream, you only need to stop throwing stones into it. So let the scene run. If it pauses, let it pause. If it returns, let it return. If it becomes faint, let it be faint. The subconscious is not measuring volume, it is receiving mood. Now I want to speak to you about gratitude for a moment, because many misunderstand it. Gratitude is not a performance. It is not something you force yourself to do in order to make something happen. That would turn gratitude into begging wearing polite clothing. True gratitude is the natural response of one who has received. It is the quiet song of fulfillment. You do not say thank you to the waiter before the meal arrives, in order to manipulate him into bringing it. You say thank you when the meal is present, when the gift is received, when the matter is settled. So gratitude in this work is not something you manufacture. It is something that arises when you truly accept the end. And if it does not arise strongly tonight, do not be troubled. We do not force it. We allow it. The relief is enough. The completion is enough. The calm is enough. Gratitude may be no more than a softness in the heart, a slight warmth behind the ribs, a quiet sense of yes, that is gratitude. So do not chase emotion. Do not chase tears. Do not chase excitement. Let gratitude be gentle, like the scent of a flower in the room. You do not grab it. You simply breathe, and it is there. Now again, softly, I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. And let the thank you fade into silence. Now, in this second practice, we are also doing something else without strain. We are teaching your nervous system to live as though the matter were done. Many people think this work is only mental. It is not. The body must also learn. The body has held the old state. The body has braced. The body has tightened. The body has lived in the posture of not safe. The body has carried worry as a habit. So now the body learns the posture of completion. Completion has a posture. It is not forward-leaning. It is not clenched. It is not scanning. It is not bracing. Completion leans back. Completion rests. Completion allows the breath to deepen. Completion lets the muscles release. So as you repeat the scene, allow the body to agree. Let the body become the proof. Not proof for the mind. Proof for the subconscious. Because the subconscious speaks through feeling and the body is feeling made visible. So if you can, let your exhale be long. Let it be like the word finished spoken without sound. Let your inhale be gentle. Let it be like receiving calm. And if thoughts appear, let them appear. Do not chase them. Do not wrestle them. Return to the simple exchange. I'm so glad it worked out. Say, yes, it did. Thank you. Now you may be wondering, Neville, should I think of my specific desire now? If the specific desire comes naturally, you may let it be included as a quiet background, but do not bring in details that awaken anxiety. The purpose is not to stir the problem. The purpose is to feel the end. So let the scene remain universal, because the subconscious does not require the name of the problem. It requires the state that implies the problem is solved, and that state is relief. That state is completion. That state is settledness. So remain there. Now I will add one more phrase, very softly, that can accompany the scene if it feels natural. Do not force it. Do not repeat it with strain. Let it be like a quiet bell heard in the distance. It is done. You may hear it as you breathe out. It is done. And then return to the scene. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. It is done. And then silence. Now notice what these words do. They do not create urgency, they create peace. They create finality. They tell the deeper mind, there is nothing to solve now. They tell the body, you may stop bracing. So let them do their work. Now, because this is a meditation meant to be heard while you sleep, I want to reassure you again, you do not need to stay awake for the full practice. In fact, the greatest success is falling asleep inside the state. If you fall asleep now, while the feeling of completion is present, the subconscious receives it as the last impression, and the last impression is the command. So if sleep comes, let it take you. If the words become distant, let them become distant. If the scene dissolves into a dream, let it dissolve. You have already planted. You have already sealed. You are now allowing. Now for those who are still awake, I want to deepen the sense of completion in a very gentle way, not by adding more scenes, but by widening the feeling slightly. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to wake tomorrow and feel that your mind is not carrying the question. You are not scanning for trouble. You are not bracing. You simply rise and you feel light. That lightness is what relief does. It lifts the weight. So allow yourself to imagine, very softly, that tomorrow morning you open your eyes, and the first sensation is calm, not the anxious memory of yesterday. Calm. You may not know why you are calm, because the mind is used to demanding reasons. But you are calm because the state has been accepted. So feel that calm for a moment, and then return again to the simple exchange that implies it. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. Now I want you to see how this practice is the opposite of worry. Worry repeats the problem again and again. Worry rehearses failure. Worry plays the same painful scene and calls it preparation. But this practice repeats completion. It repeats resolution. It repeats the end. And repetition is powerful because repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity becomes natural, and naturalness is the seal. So you are doing with completion what you once did with fear. But now you are doing it knowingly, gently, without harm. So repeat again, slowly, like the ticking of a calm clock in a quiet room. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. And let the breath slow again. Now if you notice any resistance, perhaps a part of you does not want to accept completion because it has been disappointed before, do not fight that part. That part is only trying to protect you. It believes that hope is dangerous. It believes that relaxation invites pain. It believes that if you stay vigilant, you will not be surprised. But vigilance is not protection. Vigilance is only anxiety, trained into habit. So speak kindly to that part of you, not with a long conversation, with the feeling. You say inwardly, it is safe to rest now, and then you return to the end. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. Now you may feel a tenderness in the heart. You may feel tears. If tears come, let them come. Tears do not mean you are failing. Often tears are the body releasing an old state. They are the water that washes away a habit of fear. They are the sign that something soft has finally been allowed. So let them come and go, and keep the scene simple. Keep it like a lullaby. Now I will speak more slowly, because by now many are on the edge of sleep, and this portion is designed for that edge. It is designed to carry you over. Hear it, if you can. I'm so glad it worked out. Pause. Yes, it did. Pause. Thank you. Pause. It is done. Pause. Now again. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. It is done. And now let the words become softer, as though they are coming from far away, like a gentle sound in the night. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. It is done. Now I want to remind you of something you already know, even if you have forgotten it during the day. The subconscious is the faithful servant. It does not sleep. It does not argue. It does not judge. It simply receives the feeling that is impressed upon it, and then it builds. So you do not need to keep building with your conscious mind. The conscious mind is tired. Let it rest. The subconscious will build. It will arrange. It will draw the bridge of incidents. It will move the unseen pieces. It will bring the outer world into harmony with the inner state, because that is its nature. It is faithful. So the most intelligent thing you can do now is to stop trying to be intelligent. The most powerful thing you can do is to stop pushing. The most creative thing you can do is to fall asleep in the end. And that is what we are doing. Now you may notice that your thoughts are becoming less connected. You may notice images rising without your control. You may notice that the border between imagining and dreaming is thinning. That is perfect. That means you are entering the state akin to sleep more deeply. So allow it. Do not try to hold the scene with rigid hands. Let it float. Let it drift. Let it become part of your drowsiness. And if the words, "I'm so glad it worked out," blend into a dream, let them blend. If the feeling of relief becomes the atmosphere of your sleep, that is the greatest success. Now I will offer you another gentle variation of the same scene, only to keep the mind from becoming too alert with repetition. It is the same end, the same implication, dressed in a slightly different garment. Imagine very softly that you are sitting somewhere calm, perhaps in your own home, perhaps in a quiet place, and you hear yourself say, without surprise, without drama, "It's settled." That is all. It's settled. And notice what that does to the body. It relaxes you. So you may alternate gently between the two if you like, or you may remain with the original. The original is enough. But sometimes the mind relaxes more when the words vary slightly. So here it is. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. It's settled. And silence. Now again. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. It's settled. And silence. Now if your mind tries to ask, settled, how, you do not answer. The how is not your concern. The state is your concern. Settled is a state. Relief is a state. Completion is a state. And the subconscious will externalize the state. So you remain in settledness. Now I will speak to the deeper mind in you, very softly, as though speaking to someone already asleep. You are receiving now the feeling of completion. You are receiving now the mood of relief. You are receiving now the certainty of already done. You accept it as real. You accept it as your state. And because you accept it, you begin to arrange the outer world to match it. You draw the bridge of incidents. You move the pieces. You open doors. You close what must close. You connect what must connect. You bring to pass what has been assumed. And you do it without struggle. You do it silently. You do it faithfully. Now return again to the small scene. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. Now as you repeat, you may feel yourself slipping further. You may feel that you are no longer doing the scene. It is happening. That is exactly what we want. Because when the scene happens by itself, it is no longer effort. It is state. State is effortless. State is natural. State is the feeling of this is simply so. And when the end feels like this is simply so, it is sealed. Now there is a sweetness in sleep that the day cannot produce. The day always asks questions. The day always demands proof. The day always tries to manage. But sleep is trust. Sleep is surrender. Sleep is the confession that you do not need to hold the world up. So tonight, let sleep become your ally. Let it carry the end into the depths. Let it do the work. Now I will slow again, and I will repeat the core gently, because repetition at this stage is not teaching. It is lullaby. It is a soft imprint. It is the rhythm that carries you over. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. It is done. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. It is done. And now, as the words become softer, let the feeling remain. Let the feeling be your blanket. Let relief be what surrounds you. Let settledness be the air in the room. Now you may find that the mind tries one last time to bring in the old story. It may present a worry. It may present a memory. It may present a question. That is all right. Do not wrestle it. Do not answer it. Answer only with the end. Thank you. It is done. And return to the lullaby. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Now let your breath be slow. Let your body be heavy. Let your hands be still. Let the face be soft. Let the mind drift. Because everything that needs to happen already knows the way. The seed is planted. The bridge is forming. The end is accepted. So you may rest. Now I will stay with you in this rhythm a little longer, because many fall asleep in the repetition, and that is the purpose. Do not try to follow every repetition with your conscious mind. Let it wash over you. Let it become sound. Let it become atmosphere. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. It is done. I'm so glad it worked out. Yes, it did. Thank you. It is done. And if you are asleep now, then you are asleep in the end. And if you are still half awake, allow yourself to become heavier. Allow yourself to be carried. Nothing else is required. Now, my friends, we are very near the final descent, the portion where we add nothing new, and simply allow the state to hold you all the way into deep sleep. Now we do not add anything new. We do not search for anything. We do not reach. We do not ask the night to prove itself. We simply rest in what is already true. It is done. I am safe to rest. Let those words be enough. Let them be simple. Let them be quiet. Let them be like a soft blanket laid over the mind. It is done. I am safe to rest. If you are still awake, you do not need to stay awake. If you are half asleep, you do not need to come back. If you are already asleep, you do not need to hear every word. The feeling is what remains. The feeling is what sinks. And the feeling is gentle. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now let the breath be slow. Not forced, not measured. Simply slow. Because the body is no longer bracing. The shoulders do not need to hold anything. The jaw does not need to guard. The hands can be still. The eyes can be heavy. It is done. I am safe to rest. If a thought passes, let it pass. You do not follow it. You do not finish it. You do not carry it. You simply return to the simplest truth. It is done. I am safe to rest. You have planted the end. You have entered the feeling. You have given the deeper part of you what it needs. So now, you do not interfere. Now you do not check. Now you do not reach for control. Now you let the night carry you. It is done. I am safe to rest. Let that be the last effort you ever make tonight, to make no effort. Let the muscles loosen without command. Let the bed do its work. Let gravity do its work. Let the quiet do its work. It is done. I am safe to rest. And if you feel yourself sinking, sink. If you feel yourself drifting, drift. If you feel yourself slipping, slip. There is nothing you must hold. There is nothing you must keep. There is nothing you must remember. Only this, like a soft bell in the distance. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now the mind may want to return to questions. It may whisper, but what about this? And what about that? And when will it change? And how will it come? But you do not answer questions now. Not tonight. Tonight you answer only with rest. It is done. I am safe to rest. Let the questions fade, not because you fought them, but because you no longer feed them. A question fed becomes a room you live in, but a question unfed becomes quiet. So you do not feed it, you return to peace. It is done. I am safe to rest. If there is any tightness left in the body, let it melt slowly, not in a hurry, not all at once, like ice softening under warmth. A little in the forehead, a little in the throat, a little in the chest, a little in the belly, a little in the hands. It is done. I am safe to rest. You are not required to solve life in the night. You are not required to carry tomorrow on your back. Tomorrow will come in its own time. And when it comes, it will find you rested. It will find you softer. It will find you steadier. Because tonight you have released the burden of forcing. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now let the words be slower. Let there be space between them. Let them arrive like waves. It is done. Pause. I am safe to rest. Pause. It is done. Pause. I am safe to rest. Nothing more, nothing extra. No new thought, no new effort. Just this quiet returning. It is done. I am safe to rest. If you feel a sigh, let it come. That sigh is not weakness. That sigh is the body agreeing with peace. That sigh is the letting go of an old habit, the habit of bracing, the habit of holding, the habit of watching for danger. So let the sigh be free. It is done. I am safe to rest. And if you awaken for a moment in the night, you do not need to become alert. You do not need to begin thinking. You simply return to the same softness. You return to the same end. You return to the same quiet assurance. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now the mind can be like a quiet room. The lights are low. The noise is gone. The day is finished. The night has taken over. And the night is kind. The night does not demand. The night does not rush you. The night does not measure your progress. The night simply covers you. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now I will speak these words again, not as something you must repeat with me, but as something you may receive. It is done. I am safe to rest. It is done. I am safe to rest. And if you are already asleep, these words enter you as feeling. They enter you as calm. They enter you as settledness. They enter you as completion. It is done. I am safe to rest. Let the breath be like a slow tide. In and out, in and out. No hurry, no strain, no need to control the rhythm. The body knows the way. The body has always known the way. So you let it know again. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now let the heart be quiet, not because you force it, because you no longer demand answers right now. A quiet heart is not an empty heart. A quiet heart is a resting heart. A heart that has stopped carrying what it was never meant to carry. It is done. I am safe to rest. If the day had any sharp edges, let them soften. If there were words spoken that hurt, let them lose their power. If there were moments you regret, let them fade into the past. Tonight you are not rewriting history with effort. Tonight you are simply resting in completion. And rest does its own work. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now very softly, allow the tongue to rest in the mouth. Allow the teeth to unclench. Allow the space between the eyebrows to smooth. Allow the eyelids to be heavy. Allow the arms to be warm and still. Allow the legs to sink into the bed. It is done. I am safe to rest. Let the world outside the room continue without you. It does not require your supervision. The stars do not ask you to hold them up. The night does not ask you to direct it. The earth does not ask you to manage it. So why should your life require your anxiety? It is done. I am safe to rest. Now the words may become like a whisper. It is done. I am safe to rest. And again, it is done. I am safe to rest. Let the phrase, it is done, carry a feeling of finality. Not finality as an ending you fear. Finality as completion. Finality as peace. Finality as no more striving tonight. It is done. I am safe to rest. Let the phrase, I am safe to rest, carry a feeling of permission. Permission to stop holding the breath. Permission to stop scanning the future. Permission to stop rehearsing trouble. Permission to stop bargaining with life. I am safe to rest. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now, if there is any part of you that still wants to hold on, let it hear these words as kindness. You do not need to hold on. You can let go. The moment you let go, you do not fall. You are held. You are supported. You are carried. It is done. I am safe to rest. And if you cannot feel held at once, do not worry. The body learns by repetition, so you do not demand that it be perfect. You simply return again. It is done. I am safe to rest. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now the mind may begin to drift into images. Let it drift. Let the images come and go. You do not chase them. You do not interpret them. You do not try to make them meaningful. You let them be dreamlike, because dreamlike is the doorway. It is done. I am safe to rest. In this final descent, the words are few. The feeling is everything. The feeling is the seed. The feeling is the command. And the feeling is gentle. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now listen, only if you are still awake enough to notice how your body feels when it is not trying. There is a softness that comes when the battle stops. There is a sweetness that comes when you no longer need to prove anything. There is a quiet dignity in rest, because rest is trust, and trust is power. It is done. I am safe to rest. Let the thought of tomorrow be distant. Let the thought of how be distant. Let the thought of when be distant. Tonight is not for tomorrow. Tonight is for sleep. Tonight is for completion. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now very slowly I will say the words again, and I will leave space between them, so that you may fall asleep inside the space. It is done. I am safe to rest. It is done. I am safe to rest. If you feel yourself falling, let yourself fall. There is nothing to catch. There is nothing to hold. There is only sleep. There is only quiet. There is only the night. It is done. I am safe to rest. You may have lived for a long time, as though you must keep the world in your hands. But your hands can open now. Your hands can rest. Your hands can be still. It is done. I am safe to rest. And if, in the last moments before sleep, a thought returns with urgency, you do not answer it. You do not negotiate. You do not wrestle. You simply return to these two phrases, like returning to a familiar home. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now let your breathing become a little slower, not because you force it, because the body is yielding, because the muscles are letting go, because the mind is quieting. It is done. I am safe to rest. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now, I will keep the rhythm gentle, and I will keep it simple, so that you can sink, so that you can drift, so that you can sleep. It is done. I am safe to rest. It is done. I am safe to rest. There is nothing else. No new idea, no new instruction, no new demand. Only rest, only softness, only the night. It is done. I am safe to rest. Let your chest rise and fall. Let your belly soften. Let the throat be loose. Let the face be smooth. Let the body be heavy. Let the mind be quiet. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now if you are still awake and you find yourself listening to the sound of my voice, listen as if it is distant, not because you are leaving, but because you are going deeper. The deeper you go, the less you need words. The deeper you go, the more you need only feeling. It is done. I am safe to rest. And if you are already asleep, then you are asleep inside completion. You are asleep inside relief. You are asleep inside the end. And that is the greatest gift you can give yourself tonight. It is done. I am safe to rest. Now, as the words repeat, they may become part of the night itself, like wind, like rain, like a quiet clock. It is done. I am safe to rest. And again, it is done. I am safe to rest. Now I will let the words become even fewer, even softer, so that nothing in you needs to stay alert, so that nothing in you needs to keep watch, so that you may surrender completely. It is done. I am safe to rest. It is done. I am safe to rest. If you wake later, return to this, not with effort, with softness. It is done. I am safe to rest. And now, the end of the day has come. The night is here. The body is held. The mind is quiet. The seed is planted. The work is sealed. So you may sleep. Good night, my friends.